Did you know that Ben 10 had multiple universes and different timelines? Because that was the first I heard of it when I watched Ben 10's Secret of the Omnitrix and Race Against Time back to back. I've always wanted to talk about Ben 10, but I never found the appropriate time to do it. So I kind of wanted to start backwards. I wanted to start with some of the most important moments in this series. And I learned a lot and had a fun time doing it. So let's get into it. What's up, everybody? This is Johnny2000 covering all 2000s content, media, video games, and more. Today, we're going to be talking about Ben 10 Race Against Time and Ben 10 Secret of the Omnitrix. So they made two very distinctly different Ben 10 movies. And these are two completely different concepts, let alone not talking about the fact that one is live action and one is animated. I feel like they're in almost two different genres. Unlike what the series has become now, they're so different. So let's jump into both of these movies individually, and I'll tell you guys some of the interesting facts I found online, and then let's jump into why they're so different. Let's start with Ben 10, Secret of the Omnitrix. So Gwen grumbles about how they were supposed to spend summer at the mall, but they're in the middle of another supervillain plot. Her and Grandpa Max are literally chained to the ceiling of a grimy villain lair warehouse, dangling over some weird-looking machinery. We see Dr. Animo, who's cackling, and he's talking about his latest evil invention, which is like a DNA bomb, which will de-evolutionize the world and turn humans back into prehistoric creatures. Which, you don't think COVID did that, bro? Yeah, no, I'm just kidding. In all seriousness. So Ben bursts in, except this time his hero transformations come with a fashion upgrade. He's making a flashy entrance, and of course, Animo is unimpressed and releases his latest abomination, a giant mutant Hymenopteron. It's so hard to pronounce, guys. Just bear with me. So Ben puts up a solid fight, but the creature keeps coming back, and Animo smugly points out that there's no way to shut down the machine easily.
Even you can't generate enough heat to melt that casing!
If I can't shut it down, I'll just have to turn it up.
So he does things his way. He unleashes a powerful fire blast, energy beam, and tries to sabotage the machine. Unfortunately, a siren blares and an energy wave surges, hitting Ben mid-transformation. The Omnitrix shorts out. I don't know what's going on. It's kind of like my stomach after Denny's. And just as Animo makes a quick getaway, Ben collapses into his human form. He finally defeats him and goes back to being himself. Gwen yells at him for doing this, not knowing what might happen, but Ben just says, "Can't be worse than if I don't do anything," which is going to be his reoccurring catchphrase in this.
What's up with the watch? I don't know.
The Omnitrix starts glowing orange and recharges itself. Weird, because it usually just shuts off. There's another action chase, and I keep forgetting how much kids like these action sequences because I prefer to move on with the plot, but I guess we're just gonna watch Ben chase Animo knowing that there's no way he could defeat him completely in this moment. And as Ben's Omnitrix goes crazy, Gwen is the one who ends up saving him.
You're really getting good at some of those spells in that book.
Practice makes perfect.
Gwen demands that they finally go to the mall like they planned. So Gwen's thrilled to shop, and Max wants to enjoy a smoothie in peace. And Ben is bored out of his mind like an easy Gen X kid.
Gwen needs a break from the whole battling bad guys and aliens thing, that's all. She just wants to feel normal again.
He literally does not know how to be chill. Come on. Gwen rolls her eyes at Ben once again, and the Omnitrix actually glitches, this time sending out a shockwave that actually knocks them into a store worker. The manager is angry and yells, and they're actually banned from the mall forever. And Gwen is super furious. It's interesting because Gwen and Ben's relationship is probably the most intimate in this show, and even though they don't necessarily respect each other, it seems like they're the first person to care about one another's problems, which is very humbling. And I like that the movie kind of focuses in on this relationship despite wherever it's about to go with its plot. So at 3:30, a blinding light comes outside the rust bucket. Ben is half asleep and assumes it's just some mall security revenge plot, but it's a giant spaceship instead. The pilot steps out of the spaceship and Ben prepares to go heroes, but a diamond shard pops up in front of him. It's Tetrix.
Good to see you again, Ben.
Yeah, it's good to see you too.
Ben and Gwen are thrilled to see their old ally, but the excitement doesn't last long because he says he's picking up on an SDM signal from the Omnitrix. So SDM means self-destruct mode. Not just the watch will stop working self-destruct, it's going to explode, taking Ben and probably the whole planet with it. Ben now is panicked and asks how this could have happened, and Tetrix explains that something Ben did triggered it, and they have less than 4 days until it reaches zero. Whew. This is exciting. So Ben ends up going with Tetrix, but Uncle Max stays behind because it's too risky for any plumber to be recognized, and Ben is hyped for the space adventure in this sleek, futuristic ship, and Ben is like geeking out, having a great time, meeting the pilot Gluto, which is this blob who communicates through gurgles and enthusiastic wobbles.
I assume you're familiar with space travel protocol?
Oh, sure.
Later, Tantrix scans for Azmuth's DNA.
Azmuth is on Incarcicon, the prison planet.
The creator of the Omnitrix is in some space slammer?
And Ben is just trying to be useful. Ben tries to sniff out the intruder when he realizes that it is actually Gwen. Yeah, Gwen stowed away on the ship, and now Ben accidentally activates the escape route. Unfortunately, the countdown has only accelerated because of Ben's transformation. Okay, so he's doing even more irresponsible things. Obviously, Gwen is not happy, and this is another issue.
I just figured since Ben can't find his toothbrush when it's stuck in his mouth, he could use some help finding the creator. Hey, I'm just kidding. Ben never brushes his teeth.
The gang disguises themselves to sneak into the Incarceron, this high-tech prison planet crawling with dangerous criminals. While they're searching for Azmuth, Ben spots somebody who looks like Vilgax. He thinks it's his arch nemesis and impulsively transforms into Upchuck to attack, only to find out it's actually a female of Vilgax species, not him.
You're a girl!
Yeah, I know.
Meanwhile, 6-6 ambushes Tetrax, Gwen gets cornered by prisoners, and Ben's Omnitrix shorts out again, leaving him helpless. Gwen fights off prisoners with a metal pipe, and Tetrix rescues all of them. This new character reveals her identity. She's Myax, Azmuth's former assistant. Ben begs her to fix the watch, but she drops another bombshell. She's not the creator.
What have you been using this for? To open cans? Break rocks?
Sounds about right.
Azmuth is actually missing. And worse, she admits that the Omnitrix isn't just going to explode, it's going to literally rip the universe apart. Oh my gosh, then alien force, that won't happen.
Because I know where Azmuth is.
That's a pretty good reason.
Where?
Xenon.
Xenon.
So Xenon is cloaked in darkness by one of Azmuth's devices, and that's actually a really cool concept. To think this entire place is so dangerous that it actually has to be shrouded by darkness. Ben navigates through the asteroid field, and the Omnitrix actually has a homing signal which make it easier for them to get there. But unfortunately, everything is blocked when Vilgax's ship tears into theirs, sending bioids to attack. So Ben has to fight off all these mecha droids in a pod while Tetrix and Myax try to detach the ship. Gwen and Gluto fend off Vilgax inside the ship. Gwen pilots the hover simulator in a desperate defense, while Gluto heroically sacrifices himself to protect her.
You are going to regret sending me to the null void for what little remains of your miserable life.
Vilgax and Ben 10 finally have a one-on-one encounter here in space, and it is terrifying. After all the chasing, seeing them neck to neck running around the spaceship is just so isolating and really freaks me out.
I do not make deals.
That's okay. Neither do I.
Ben ejects Vilgax into space and crash lands on Xenon. However, the planet's not as abandoned as it seems. It's actually crawling with wild florana, which is wild vine species. It's kind of cool to see a little glimpse into that alien life form, but it's not a safe situation for it. And they capture Gwen. Ben once again transforms into Four Arms in a desperate rescue attempt, but he fails to save her. He's distraught, lashes out in frustration, and feels horrible about himself because, it's fair, he was warned multiple times. Tetrix tells him to keep moving, and they're getting closer to Azmuth's true location.
If you hadn't helped the creator make this stupid thing, then I never would have found it and Gwen would still be alive.
Ben!
I am a selfish and self-centered being, but it takes one to know one.
So Ben's devastated after Gwen's capture, and he's super silent, while everybody heads to Azmuth's possible hideout.
You okay?
Just wondering how I'm gonna tell Grandpa about.
I'm sorry. I know what you're going through. I was young.
He said when he was Ben's age, he said he was a selfish mercenary who worked for the highest bidder and even Vilgax. The worst mistake of his life was delivering the final piece Vilgax needed to destroy his homeworld. Oh, that's so depressing. Tetrix's guilt fuels his mission to stop villains like Vilgax, and we have a lot more insight onto him. Ben finally admits that he was reckless back at Animo's lab, and he was the one who might have triggered the Omnitrix self-destruct. But this time he's going about it with a more positive angle. He actually vows to make things right, not just for himself, but Gwen. And it's nice to see how much he cares for Gwen, because we never really see that in other episodes of the show. I mean, there's a lot of plots that resolve with their relationship, but it doesn't always go back to normal. And of course, there's a lot at stake right now with not only the Omnitrix about to explode. This is like a really, really tough pill to swallow for Ben. Ben and Gwen kind of remind me a lot of Jazz and Danny from Danny Phantom. I'm not sure if you guys get that relationship, but like the kind of bickering siblings, but also kind of have a shared responsibility of using this power that the main character has. I don't know, it seems like a similar show.
What are you doing with my Omnitrix?
My Omnitrix? You're the creator?
So security lasers scan the Omnitrix, activating a hologram of Azmuth. This grumpy, mechanical-looking guy is not happy, and he wants to know why Ben is messing with his Omnitrix before immediately shutting the doors in their faces. Ben is tired of everyone getting his way and transforms into Cannonball and barrels through the doors like a wrecking ball, which kind of seems like the character backtracking considering what we just learned. Ben confronts Azmuth, expecting this like grand wise inventor, but instead he's a tiny alien. In fact, he even looks like one of Ben's aliens.
Yeah, I'm a Galvan, so what? Does that give you the right to destroy my property and invade my privacy?
Enough talk! Stop the countdown!
He's convinced the universe isn't worth saving, and people like Ben and Vilgax are just going to keep using the Omnitrix as a weapon instead of what it was meant for, which is understanding all species.
You and Vilgax are no different.
That's not true! Sure, I've messed around with the watch, but I've helped a lot of people with it too.
Oh, interesting. So the Omnitrix is almost like an empathy provider where you could literally step into the person's shoes. But that's interesting. I guess, you know, like from somebody's perspective, Ben is a hero, but from another's, it's like he's just using power. Like even though he's doing these small saves, it might not be for the better of the universe. It might just be as destructive as somebody like Vilgax. Ben claims that he uses it for good, and before he could respond, the entire layer starts to shake. It turns out that Vilgax is back with an army of bioids and mechadroids as they descend from the sky and surround them. Azmuth is like super not in the mood and is like, why are you doing anything about this? But suddenly a giant spell blast explodes and Gwen is there and he's alive. Ben is on the verge of tears, he tackles her, and this feels like a really rewarding moment because of how much we were convinced she was gone. And she explains that Gluto regenerated and saved her from Florina. Oh, thank gosh. That would have been a really dark reality to accept, Ben. Ben's blaster gets destroyed and he and Myax get overwhelmed, and there's no other choice, so Ben rips off his inhibitor, stopping the Omnitrix energy blast, and it explodes in a massive shockwave, wiping out Vilgax's forces, hopefully once and for all, and Azmuth finally deactivates the self-destruct button before it hits 0, and finally the universe is saved, but Vilgax is still standing. Oh, gosh. As the villains close in, Vilgax is riding on one like this mech warrior, ready to take the Omnitrix. Gwen reminds Ben once again that he doesn't need the Omnitrix to be a hero. So Azmuth actually helps him, reattaches the dial, and instead of fixing it, he unlocks a brand new transformation. The Omnitrix starts glowing a blinding light, and Ben transforms into an enormous skyscraper-sized alien. With a single punch, this guy way big sends Vilgax flying as Ben laughs him off, and it's all done. Vilgax is thrown into space. We don't know where he's going or what's going on. The battle is over and the team regroups. We find out everything is good. Azmuth rebuilds the ship and offers to give back the Omnitrix to Ben. Ben is super grateful and surprised Gluto can speak English. Turns out he was insulting Ben the entire time. Awkward.
Oh yeah, not blood.
Who knew?
And Ben gets a new hoverboard as a parting gift. Meanwhile, there's a radio report of a zombie attack at the mall, and we feel a nice resolution as they get back to their episodic adventures. Finally, it ends on a really positive note. And it's nice because it's not like everything was concluded, but it allows the audience to have an imagination as to where Ben and Gwen would go from now on. I mean, an imagination. We don't really want to talk about pretending like we don't know Alien Force and Omniverse and literally all the sequel series. Like, there's no mystery to where these guys end up. But it was definitely a fantastic conclusion to this first series. Like, the first series offered a lot of surprises and fun with the Omnitrix and all the aliens it could transform into, and getting this final dive into its creator is the perfect way to end a series. As someone who only watched this series, like, I definitely feel like I would have been happy if it ended here. Apparently, Secret of the Omnitrix takes place in between the episode Goodbye and Good Riddance and Race Against Time, even though it kind of aired before both of them. And Race Against Time is an alternate timeline in the Ultimate Alien chronology. Now that we've covered Secret of the Omnitrix, why don't we switch gears and go into Race Against Time. So this is the live action version. Tara Strong, who was replaced by a real kid this time. Okay, at least it's getting taken seriously. So according to the pop-up trivia I actually learned from this, Ben has been back in Bellwood for a few weeks since his summer vacation ended. Since her family moved to a different part of Bellwood during the summer, Gwen is actually going to Ben's school now. Gwen has temporarily given up her real magic in an effort to try and get back to normal. Ben's aliens got famous over the summer thanks to news reports. Okay, so it's 2:59 a.m. in Bellwood, and a mysterious figure appears out of thin air in the town's main street, and we genuinely do not know who this guy is. He could be a street performer in purple for all I know. He immediately starts destroying things. Okay, so maybe he's not. Maybe he is an unfriendly street performer. We see Ben in the form of Heat Blast, and I'm already excited to see the first alien in live action in this special.
This is the part where you tell me your name, what your evil intentions are, yada yada.
And Heat Blast does not look too bad. I think some of the action moments are a little bit hard to watch and a little slower than we would expect, like from a cartoon to a live action, but Heat Blast looks cool, so I'm going to forgive it. After a very short battle, Heat Blast obliterates the villain and reverts back into Ben. The pop-punk rendition of the theme song, though, is a little weird. It feels a little off to me. I don't know what it is. The next morning, Ben's in school, and we finally get to see Ben 10's normal life outside of the TV series. I mean, there was an episode or two that showed it to us, but this is really fun to see it live action. Now it's all real. It's all for the first time. So he has trouble adjusting to his normal life again.
Heat Blast, the superhero in Bellwood? No way.
Actually, I heard he was Heat Blast too. He's pretty cool, isn't he?
He gets bullied by this guy named Cash and JT, and these two kids at the high school have a really funny banter between each other. And I didn't expect Ben to be this stereotypically bullied, but I think they did this a little bit in the pilot, so I'm not that surprised. We meet Ben's parents for real, and I'm telling you, they are like weirder in person. They are like hippie, angelic type people, and I just don't know how to describe it. It's just different than the show, I feel like.
Well, we were kind of hoping that you'd be finding friends your own age to play with.
Kids my own age are boring. Grandpa's fun.
They tell Ben that he needs to readjust to his life in Bellevue. So he actually attempts to do this by thinking of joining the talent show, but he doesn't know what to do, so he asks the girls to give him a talent. Ben, that is not what's supposed to happen. He assumes his talent's gonna be something with the Omnitrix until Gwen interrupts, thank gosh, because he almost ruined that. Saves Ben by saying they'll do the talent show together. Ben has a really hard time fitting in, even when he's chilling at the diner, and he goes into gray matter, another alien, second alien for this special. And then we have an excruciatingly graphic sequence of Ben turning into gray matter, and it is disgusting. It is graphic, it is uncomfortable. I don't want to see Ben turn into these aliens as realistically as they're trying to put out. And he causes complete chaos at this diner. And this is one of the repercussions that happen from Ben actually trying to use his Omnitrix to shortcut life, which is a really fun moment. Later, he and Gwen go over the same yearbook photos she took, and in the background of one of them, Gwen enhances a blurred spot to reveal the same villain that Ben defeated earlier. Max identifies this as Eon, an alien that the plumbers captured almost 2 centuries ago. How old are you, Uncle Max?
Took us many years to find out.
When he arrived, he was half dead and brought a device called the Hands of Armageddon, which opened a time rift to the alien's home dimension, and his plan is to unleash his race upon Earth when it's activated. The 3 Tennysons travel to a secret hidden containment facility where Eon is supposed to be kept in this suspended animation, but it's empty and his guardian is aged to near death. Before he dies, the plumber warns Ben that Eon is after him specifically. Oh my gosh. Well, this is exciting, actually.
Can't let him find the hardware store. Or the rest of the plumbers.
Grandpa, you said the plumbers disbanded.
We kept a handful active to watch over our things.
So they travel back to Bellwood, where Max takes Ben and Gwen to the location where the Hands of the Armageddon is. It's guarded by a few remaining plumbers ranging from Mrs. Dalton, Mr. Hawkins the postman, Fire Chief Whittington, and Principal Edward White. And it's really cool to know that the people in Ben's life that we've actually previously met in this film are part of this secret protection facility. Like, it makes me feel good that Bellevue is so pro-hero.
Why didn't you just destroy it?
We've tried, honey. Over the years, we plumbers have thrown everything we got at it. But the Hands have a way of deflecting us.
Eon follows them and breaks into the facility but can't activate the device. So Ben attempts to use his Omnitrix, but it malfunctions, glowing purple, refusing to activate. Like, what could this possibly be? It doesn't even look like the same way it does in the show. It seems like something different is going on, but I love to see it live. Eon manages to corner Ben, explaining that his race learned to control time itself, but accidentally trapped themselves by misusing their power. He claims that his fate is intertwined with Ben's. Oh, this is scary. Eon attempts to kidnap Ben, but Ben is able to escape. Max decides it would be best for Ben to leave Bellwood so Eon wouldn't find him.
Look at it that way.
If Eon wants the Omnitrix, he's gonna find me. It doesn't matter where I go.
Ben?
You and the plumbers said that it's up to me now to protect the town. So let me. Let Eon come and find me here in Bellwood.
And they both come to a deal where Ben will be monitored daily by a plumber in disguise. The plumbers all around town are guarding Ben around the clock. Ben goes to school and somebody's watching. He's in gym, somebody's watching. This is where we get to some really quirky moments from Ben 10. And it's funny because a lot of the more fun and satirical experiences that Ben have is so much better in real life. Like seeing him interact with the adults, seeing him interact with Gwen, like it just seems like this world is so fun when it's silly.
Girls are assistants.
Times have changed, cuz. Don't worry, you'll look great in a leotard.
Things get more actiony or the aliens come out. This extra realism is a lot more harder to believe, but I do think it does a better job than any of the other Cartoon Network live action experiences in the past. And he's just paranoid that Eon could be anywhere. Suddenly Eon arrives again and shoves the principal out of his way. Ben has to transform into Diamond Head and fight him off.
Come on, let's settle this thing once and for all.
When an alarm sounds, the entire school gathers in the courtyard through which room, Benjamin?
Oh, man. Huh?
Later in that day, Ben decides to lure Eon into a trap by purposely leaving himself open. But this backfires, and he is immediately captured, along with Gwen and Max, and the rust bucket is destroyed. Wow. Okay, so everything is getting a little bit more intense. At the plumber facility storing the Hands of Armageddon, Eon explains some of the background of the Omnitrix. Ben can only remain in his alien forms for 10 minutes at a time, failsafe to prevent them from overwhelming his personality. Eon knows how to deactivate the failsafe, and in doing so can resurrect himself through the Omnitrix. So he does that, and he transforms Ben into a younger version of himself. Meanwhile, Principal White has gotten out of the nurse's office and finds the imprisoned plumbers. When trying to find a key to the room, they point out that the button near the door freed them. So Gwen and Max manage to free themselves and work to stop him. Max in the meantime tries to disable the time rift at the cost of his own life. Oh my gosh. We just met this live action Max and he's just as good as the cartoon Max.
Grandpa! Ben! Ben's hissing, you stupid idiot! Grandpa's in trouble!
Gwen appeals to Ben inside Eon. Ben is able to successfully overcome Eon, pressing the Omnitrix symbol after his cloak reverts him back into Ben, with the help of the other plumbers. They manage to save Max and disable the time rift, sending Eon's race back to their own dimension. Just when it seems like they won, time stops for everybody but Ben. The older Eon appears, angry at Ben's victory, and Ben transforms into Wild Mutt. Oh my god, there's still more battles. This is where it's getting over budget. Eventually, he knocks him into the Hands of Armageddon, destroying both the Hands and Eon. Okay, so I get it. We want a more conclusive ending. I'm on board now.
I hope nobody noticed that.
I don't feel so good.
Using the Omnitrix, Ben is able to make it look like he's just doing this as his talent. While Mutt reverts back into Ben and he accepts being just himself for a while. He does not need to turn into aliens. However, Max points out that aliens are persistent, and as they walk off into the night, an alien ship flies toward Earth. The end. This definitely did a really good job translating the original series into what it had become live. I like that it's so different from Ben 10 Secret of the Omnitrix because it's really hard to have really intense, important events happening back to back. I like that the first movie focused on Ben and Gwen's relationship, the second movie focused on Ben and this new villain. Like, they were able to take this episodic approach to the film while also rooting it in Ben's origins and not proving to be this one-off. This movie actually appeared in Poland before the first episode of Alien Force on the same day, which is kind of weird to me. This movie was actually originally canon to the prime timeline of the classic continuity. As a part of Ben 10,000 Returns, it's been retconned into an alternative timeline with many changes to the story, such as Eon now being an alternate timeline version of Ben instead of an alien, and the Cronians and Cronia no longer exist. The reverse happened in Ben 10 Destroy All Aliens, that other movie. The reason behind the name of the Rust Bucket 2 was because the original was destroyed in this film, and the current canon explanation is unknown. Some of Eon's previous attempts to control Ben prior to the movie were thwarted by the paradox, and it's kind of unknown if this holds true after Eon was retconned as being an alternate version of Ben. Darren Norris is Diamond Head. Darren Norris is the guy who plays the janitor on Ned's Declassified and Cosmo from Fairly Odd Parents, which is really random. Although Ben has stayed in his alien form for over 10 minutes before, it's never been with the failsafe purposely turned off. The weird energy fluctuations of the Hands of Armageddon make it impossible for Gwen to use her real magic. The hands needed the full power of the young Cronian to become activated. The hand's defenses dropped once again once it was powered on, and it made it easy to destroy, which is why it was easy to happen. The stage manager was actually played by the movie's writer, Mitch Watson. Carl is implied to know one of the plumbers, and the ships at the end of the movie are implied to belong to Vilgax, which is kind of cool. Overall, both of these movies share really special quirks. While Ben 10 Secret of the Omnitrix focuses on the relationship between Ben and Gwen and the action adventure they have throughout space, I feel like Ben 10 Race Against Time did a better job at fleshing out the world and turning it into a more cinematic experience that you could excuse to actually go to the theaters and watch, while Ben 10 Secret of the Omnitrix can lean more into the TV movie category. Both had amazing reveals and really great storylines. Like, they both were definitely objectively feature films. The cool thing about them is that each of the scripts work in its own way. Secret of the Omnitrix could not work in a live action way, and I don't think Race Against Time would be as interesting in an animated way. Making these unique experiences that really thrive off the format they were made in.